Chapter 071, Sparkly. Sophia and Blue were exploring the tiger's new cherry blossom forest to see if there were any interesting secrets hidden there, and there were. At first, she found out that magic had created hundreds of extra floating islands above the forest, and Blue then guided her to a massive ravine, which the blonde decided to climb down and see what was on the bottom. Chloe. Anna. Sophia returned to the cottage and immediately called for the two. Yes? The duo poked their heads out of the living room door a few moments later. What's up? Get ready. We're going on a trip. She just smiled at them. We already are ready to go on a trip. The pink fox answered her. Yes. The princess nodded. We were about to head over to Aura's pine forest. That can wait. The blonde shook her head. I found something absolutely amazing both of you need to see. She was extremely excited about her findings in the ravine. What happened? Chloe got curious. You have to see it yourself. It's too amazing to describe. Afterward, she grabbed the hands of the girls and dragged them with her through the portal. Whoa. Arriving at the bottom of the ravine, Anna and Chloe immediately got loud. Quite something, isn't it? Sophia sounded extra smug. Where are we? The pink fox looked up but was unable to see anything that would help her orientate because the light from the top was too blinding as it was rather dark around them, too. It looks like some sort of ravine? I've never seen something like that before. The princess was looking at the walls in front of them with sparkling eyes. That's exactly what it is. The blonde smiled at Chloe. It's a ravine in the middle of my cherry blossom forest. Blue showed it to me. That's so cool. The fox liked the place. Wait, how did it know about this? She then stared at the bird on Sophia's shoulder. Because Blue's amazing. The short tiger had the same reply as before. The parakeet also flapped its wings a couple of times while nodding. You're lucky you're so cute. Chloe got closer to Sophia and patted Blue's head a couple of times. Else, you'd be subjected to some serious questioning. She intensified her stare at the parakeet, who then actually turned its head away. By the way, the ravine is not the main reason I brought you two specifically here, you know? The blonde got back on track. Do you remember when we learned about the mutation stuff and how we got excited about crystals? She looked at the fox specifically while saying so. Anna, after we watched those movies, you also wanted to play with us, right? While Maya and the others were more interested in the glowy mushroom stuff. Yes. The two nodded. Well, it's not a crystallized forest, but close enough, I guess? Sophia pointed past the duo, and behind the portal they came through. Turning around, they then looked in the direction she was pointing at. WWHOAH. Both immediately got loud once they saw what was going on. The bottom of the ravine was more than just a long passage. Hidden from above, it expanded into a massive cave system leading into the rocky sides. More than that, right behind the group was an entrance to a gigantic cave made purely with white, light pink, and purple crystals that used the little light from above to illuminate the whole cave and turned it into a sparkly wonderland. The entire area looked like the insides of an enormous 100 by 100 meter wide amethyst geode. This is quite something, isn't it? The blonde was also looking at everything with great interest. After all, she immediately went to get the others before she really had the chance to take it in herself. It's amazing. Anna and Chloe just nodded in agreement. Should we explore the caves and tunnels a little? Sophia smiled at the duo. It looks absolutely amazing, and maybe we can even find a hint for our crystallized plants idea to recreate. Let's go. The two liked the idea a lot. Exactly the response I wanted to hear. Energetically raising her fist once more, the short tiger then guided them deeper into the cave while everyone was taking in the sights with their eyes sparkling almost as much as the crystals themselves. This sure looks weird. Once they reached the other end of the smaller cave, the trio entered a roughly 3-meter wide tunnel also made purely out of the same crystals. Just like before, thanks to the crystals reflecting light on a level that almost seemed unnatural, the entire tunnel system was well lit and extremely sparkly. You get used to it. Sophia gave her a quick thumbs up. How do you get used to that? Also, where did you get the chance to do so in the first place? She didn't understand how the blonde got the experience of getting used to it. Ah, right, I forgot that you can't see it. Right. Chloe nodded a few times. Can't see what? The princess raised her voice because she felt left out. Raw or ambient magic? Sophia smiled at her. The pink and purple color scheme of the crystals, together with the sparkles from the reflections, look a lot like the magic particles Chloe and I can see all the time. Yep. Oh. The princess relaxed again after she understood. Wait, you two's vision is sparkly and shiny like that all the time? She then wildly gestured all around her. No, the pink fox shook her head. Normally, it's only a little sparkle here and there unless you release your own magic and increase the amount around you. Well, Myra's domain's constantly sparkly, though. Sophia's domain is getting more like that, too. Especially the cherry blossom forest above. That was quite the sight. You should have seen what was going on right before I created the forest. Sophia looked at Chloe. It was so sparkly that I literally couldn't see my hand in front of my eyes. It was actually a little scary even. I would have loved to see that. She only got more interested in it. You two really are something else. Anna wasn't sure what to say. Well, as I'm the weakest in the group and can't see it naturally, I'm quite happy about being able to witness something similarly looking, though. She looked on the bright side instead. I don't think it has something to do with power. Chloe shook her head. I could already see magic before Steph gave me half of her powers. Back then, it was roughly on the level of current you, maybe even below that. Not to mention that Aura can't see it, either. In theory, she has even more magic than the two of us. Yeah, the pink fox nodded. I'm pretty sure, because Steph and Feifei can also see it, it's because of our connection to the overseers. That circle's even more elite. Anna got loud again. Ahaha. The duo could only chuckle over her lively reactions. Afterward, the three followed the crystal tunnel for about half an hour while they had 1 or 7 discussions over where to go whenever there was a fork, and they eventually arrived in yet another cave. While it was around the same size, it was still a little different from the geode-like looking one from before, though. Why are we coming across so many hot springs and thermal baths lately? Anna lightly rolled her eyes when she noticed the white cave made from limestone and calcite. Inside, there were many pool-like basins filled with slightly steaming and perfectly blue water. They were stacked up next to each other and grew towards the ceiling in a stepped pattern, where they were supplied with a source of fresh hot water that overflowed from pool to pool. The roof itself, contrary to the limestone and calcite walls and pools, was made from the same crystals of the tunnels, giving everything the same sparkly feel as before. That's a good question. The other tiger shrugged. Well, I had magic create the forest above, and it knows how much we all love baths, so. She glanced at Blue on her shoulder towards the end, who nodded and flapped its wings a couple of times in return. I'm more interested in the how. Chloe lightly raised her voice. Same with the other hot springs inside the forest. We had to literally portal in water from a different world or dimension or whatever, but here, there's just a natural hot spring. Does that mean there's even more stuff under us? Something has to be heating up the water, right? Like magma, or something like that. You might be overthinking this. Sophia lightly shook her head while looking at the fox. Coincidentally, Blue was doing the same, too. Magic can create water. Why wouldn't magic also be able to create hot water out of nothing? Huh. She paused for a moment. Fair enough, I guess? Chloe couldn't say much there at first. Wait, how though? Where does the magic to create water come from when no one of us is using or releasing it? Didn't Mira say a good while ago that magic gets generated from enhanced flora? Anna tilted her head. This will then automatically get used to further grow the environment as some form of symbiosis. Or something like that, if I remember right. Sophia's idea for this place was to create something amazing, right? That leaves a lot to the imagination. and it resulted in an amazing underground hot spring. Excess magic generated in the cherry blossom forest above will be used up for the hot water down here. Chloe and Sophia just stared at the princess for this absolutely sound explanation. Hearing that, Blue also left the blonde's shoulder and flew over to Anna. Landing on her shoulder instead, the parakeet then rubbed its head against her cheek. It seemed like her explanation was spot on. "Eehee, aren't you the cutest?" The tall tiger happily patted Blue's head a few times before pointing at the hot spring pools in front of them while glancing at the duo. "Should we go for a dip? I mean, we're here already, and it looks really nice, too." "Sure." There was no hesitation in their reply. As the previous topic was exhausted, the duo liked her alternative suggestion as a change of pace. Having decided on their next activity, the trio quickly stripped and entered one of the white calcite pools with the perfectly blue thermal water. Even Blue joined them and took its own bath in a tiny divot formed at the edge of the pool the group entered. Chapter 072, Sophisticated Conversations. Sophia, Anna, and Chloe were exploring the crystal cave system under the cherry blossom forest and were having a ton of fun looking at all the sparkling minerals and the amazing lighting. On top of that, the trio also found an underground limestone and calcite hot spring with amazingly blue thermal water. The three decided to test out the hot spring and took a bath in it together. While relaxing and enjoying the perfectly temperate water, Sophia kept staring at the other two with a complicated expression. "Our eyes are up here." Anna and Chloe didn't appreciate the blonde's line of sight, and both ended up covering their breasts. There's no need to make up for the absence of Maya and Steph. They were in perfect sync. Ahaha. The short tiger awkwardly scratched her cheek. "Believe it or not, I actually had no horny thoughts when I was staring." She shook her head. "Well, mostly none." "Sure." They did, in fact, not believe her. "Seriously." Sophia jumped up in the water and ended up presenting her entire naked body to the two. "It's less obvious when it's all of us because I'm kinda in the middle of the group, but if I'm just with you two, I don't compare so well." She then looked down at her own chest. "Seriously?" The duo also went ahead and stared at the same area. "Yes." "You look amazing, though." Chloe shook her head. "And it's quite easy to tell right now." Her gaze slowly went from the top of the blonde's head all the way down to her thighs to the point where the rest of her legs disappeared in the opaque blue water. "Very easy." Anna was doing the exact same thing as the fox. "You have a very similar body type to Ari, and you know how much I like that type. In fact, your breasts are bigger than hers." "It's not much, but because I studied hers so much, I can tell." She stared even harder at them to make sure about her claim. "Medium is the best. Depending on the individual scale, you'd qualify as large, too. You had an impressive growth in the last year." "I even think they're too big." Chloe, too, intensified her stare. "I'm into smaller ones, so I absolutely prefer Steph over you there." I see." Feeling bashful about the compliments, in one way or another, Sophia submerged herself in the water again to protect herself against their stares. "I mean, I'm happy about my body, but with just the three of us, the difference is quite something." "Fair enough." The two well-endowed girls had very little to say there. Speaking of, Chloe tilted her head while looking at the short tiger. "What is your preference in that regard?" "I like them small, and Anna's into medium breasts." "What about you?" "I like boobs." Sophia smiled while giving her an instant reply. "Small, medium, big, I like all of them. Boobs are boobs, and boobs are great." "I mean, I agree and feel the same at the end of the day, but no preference whatsoever?" The fox lightly tilted her head. "Yeah." Anna agreed. "It's obvious that all boobs are great because they're boobs, but if you had to choose, what would it be?" Judging by her expression, it was one of the hardest questions Sophia had ever been asked. "In the first place, I'm more into legs. That's why I'm truly neutral when it comes to breasts. As long as I get something to play with, I'm happy. Thighs over boobs any day. Good calves do things to me, too. We know about your very obvious leg fetish. The duo just stared at her as the revelation of her preference was far from one. If I really had to choose, though, the blonde gave it some serious thought. Well, I don't dislike getting hugged by Anna and almost suffocating from it because her massive chest is at the perfect height to smother me. Hey! The princess got loud. Okay, I do have a habit of almost suffocating shorter girls, though. There were some close calls with Ari, too. She couldn't actually complain much about it. Go on. My size can already be a pain, though. Yours and Chloe's must be even more annoying when running or constantly getting in the way. Not to mention shoulder and back pain at the end of the day. Finding cute clothes and underwear, including lingerie, is much harder, too. Knowing all that makes it hard to enjoy massive breasts to the fullest. True. The duo looked rather tired while nodding a few times. I do love me some soft pillows to rest on, though. Maya's are great in that. They're also big, but not massive. Chloe, how much would you hate me if I were to say that I love Myra's boobs? They're slightly bigger than those of my cat, but still not a size with all the mentioned downsides. At least not to such a degree. The pink fox decided to say nothing at all, because she really didn't want to engage in this conversation where the breasts of her mother were the topic. So you prefer bigger breasts? Anna tried to summarize it. Within reason, that is. Yeah, I guess. The short tiger agreed. They're comfy, after all. She was more interested in the feel rather than looks. That being said, again, if it's just about looks and there's a girl with small breasts and amazing legs and a girl with Myra's boobs and just good legs, I would pick the small boobs without any hesitation whatsoever. A boob pillow is great and all, but a lap pillow is divine. I see. Chloe still didn't want to have anything to do with it after her mother got mentioned once again. Okay, I understand. The tall tiger nodded. Wait, so your ideal type is Mira? She tried to connect one and one. I'm no expert because, for me, it's the other way around for legs and boobs, but Mira has nice legs, right? She definitely has. The blonde thought so, too. Very nice, actually, but not perfect. I would appreciate a little more squish. Soft and squishy is the best. When it comes to that, Chloe will win, but Chloe as a whole is a bit short, so while the squish seems to be perfect, there's not enough leg in absolute terms. Sorry. She showed the pink fox a wry smile before continuing. Ari, even though she overall seems thin, seems to have great legs in terms of squishy levels, and you, my dear princess, I love your endlessly long legs, but my Maya actually takes the cake. She's decently tall with long legs, and the squishiness of her thighs is close to perfect, too. I am very happy with what I got. She started smiling. Great boobs as an extra on top, too. Thanks to everything that is holy. Chloe seemed relieved about something. Mira is extremely hot, though. Sophia just had to do it. True. Anna thought so, too. Hey! The fox got loud again. She's still my mother. So? The two didn't see an issue with that. After all, she's yours, not ours. Gore. She didn't like that. Some compassion here would be nice. Hee hee. They had no intention of giving her any. Anyway. Chloe ended the topic of Mira. It is so interesting how different our tastes are. Or preferences, at least. It's also great that we found partners that meet those preferences, huh? I am fairly sure that they're the reason we have those preferences. Anna didn't exactly agree with her. For me, at least, I'm certain that Ari shaped my preferences, and she's the reason I like girls the way I do. You admitted being into me and my looks before you got together with her, though. Sophia smirked at the princess. That again? Anna got loud. Also, it's absolutely guaranteed it was because you're so similar to her build, albeit not quite as big back then. You all already made me admit that I was in love with Ari for much longer, and you were just a crush that helped me realize that. To be reduced to a mere stepping stool. I'm deeply hurt. The short tiger tried to sound as hurt as possible. Shush. The princess didn't want to entertain her. I am so upset that I didn't know you all back then already. Chloe started pouting. It sounds like it was quite an entertaining time. I feel like I missed out on so much. You didn't miss anything. Anna only got even louder. Ahaha. The fox let out a chuckle before focusing on Sophia again. What about you? Did your tastes also get influenced and/or shaped by Maya, or did you already like her type? Well, she scratched her cheek while thinking about it. I've been into legs ever since hitting puberty, so that didn't have to do anything with her. I may have gotten more into her type of legs, but that's about it. She definitely shaped my liking for bigger breasts, though. Before, I truly didn't care, and still don't do that much, but she made me realize how comfy they are. Great to look at and play with, too. I see. Chloe nodded a few times. Again, so fascinating. Chloe, my dear, Sophia looked right at her. Shall I remind you about how you told me that I was your type a little while after we met in that elven village? I've grown a little more since then, but I already was in the medium category at that time. She even gave her breasts a slight squeeze to get her point across. True. She watched the squeeze for a second before looking the blonde in the eyes again. I'm pretty sure I was talking about your personality, though. I also remember almost being relieved that you weren't smaller, because it made it easier to accept that you were already taken regardless. Right, fair enough. I do remember talking about Steph a lot afterward, because her default personality is like an enhanced version of my best traits. So, you actually were lucky that Steph ticked all the boxes for you? Anna tilted her head. Yep. Chloe reacted with a big nod. I like to look at height gaps. You and Ari are adorable together, Sophia and Maya to a lesser degree, too, but I don't want to be in a relationship like that myself. The cuteness aside, it seems quite bothersome for a lot of things like kissing or hugging that don't involve being smothered by the taller one. Some poses during nightly activities seem to become harder or maybe even impossible, too. True, the princess just hung her head. I'm flexible, and Maya's committed, so we don't have any issues with that. Sophia smiled at her instead. Our gap also isn't that big, though. That's one of the reasons I like girls my height, meaning short ones. It's kinda the opposite for the boob topic, though. I am big, so I'm attracted to the other end of the spectrum there. I want what I don't have myself, I guess. It doesn't come with any of the downsides of being tall, which I don't have going on for me either, after all. In fact, smaller breasts appear to be a lot more sensible, which is a lot of fun. Steph's reactions are adorable. She got a little extra specific at the end. Hey! The short tiger raised her voice. That's my sister you're talking about. She wasn't actually upset because she also loves Chloe, but she just had to do it. You lusted after my mother just a few minutes ago. The fox didn't like that in the slightest. She paused for a second. Go on. There was nothing the blonde could say here. Anyway, yeah, Steph's exactly my type, so I'll forever be grateful to Sophia that she brought her over here, too. You're welcome. Afterward, the girls continued to relax in the hot spring while also chatting about the same topic for a good while longer. It seemed like their bathing session would go on for a good while longer. Chapter 073, Crystal Plans. The trio was still enjoying their break in the hot spring they found after following the crystal tunnel Sophia found under her cherry blossom forest, and they had a great time with some very specific girls' talk during their usual naked bonding, of which they were still engaging in. Wait, now that I think about it, Steph actually did change my taste in girls in some area. Chloe picked up the conversation from before again. Oh? Anna tilted her head while looking at her. How so? I think of myself as a rather gentle and soft personality, so I thought I would prefer to have a partner who is a top. Makes sense. The princess could follow her logic. Steph's the biggest bottom in existence, though. Because of that, I tried being the top, and I ended up enjoying that a lot even though I never expected it. Dominating Steph is like the best thing ever. Her voice was full of glee. While being respectful, of course. She looked at Sophia, the older sister of said girl, at the end. I am going to tease her so much about this. She had no issues with it. Ah, I see. The tall tiger nodded a few times. Wait, what? She then looked confused. Steph? A bottom? No way. She's like the most energetic and outgoing girl in our group. Not to mention that her horny levels almost reach those of Maya. There's no way she's a bottom. Trust me, I was the most surprised. Chloe paused for a moment. She's also eager in the bedroom, but I have to lead because else she gets nothing done. Steph's excited but passive. It's actually really cute how she acts when she wants me to go. So shy. Wow. Anna had no better words. To be fair, Sophia then looked at the princess. You're also super outgoing and lively, and yet a bottom, as well. Huh? She tilted her head. Who told you that? I'm not? Okay, I'm not exactly a full top, but I'm so not a bottom either. I enjoy both sides. But Ari. Wait. The blonde's expression changed. Right, I'm sorry. I mixed something up there. You might not necessarily be a bottom, but something of a masochist. You also can take the initiative there to do things now that I think about it, huh? Oh, Steph's one, too. Chloe smiled at the tall tiger. She lets me do everything, though. Very fun, so I can't complain. I'll kill you, Ari. She got loud. There was no need to tell her that. Again, to be fair, the blonde repeated herself. You're not making that much of a secret out of it. Your reactions to a lot of things make it pretty clear that you enjoy some more advanced techniques. Anna's face turned red. Oi. Sophia stared at her. That was not an invitation to get horny now. Ugh. She turned her head away. What about you? Leaving the tall tiger on her own, Chloe faced the short one. It's very obvious that Maya's a top, so. I'm a very happy switch. Sophia gave her a thumbs up. I enjoy having Maya take care of things because she is really good at what she's doing, but during the times when I'm in the mood, I'll take care of her, too. Especially when toys are involved, because she's quite weak to them. Getting a reaction out of her with them gives me life. She's unbelievably cute and adorable when I get the upper hand and top her in bed. Actually, I can see that with the two of you. The fox nodded. It makes perfect sense with your dynamic. Your toys are evil in the first place. Anna finally got over the previous topic and immediately got loud again. Ari and I tried one of them you gave us a few times, and it's way too effective. It feels amazing, but it's so powerful. Which one of my selections did you two try? The blonde tilted her head. I gave you something of everything to play with, after all. The one you put on top of your C, that uses this weird air magic that makes it vibrate and pulsate. Her cheeks turned red again. I'm so happy that Chloe taught us that magic to soundproof our room, because every corner of this domain would have heard my screams. Ari's, too, for that matter. Why did you two jump right at the most elaborate one out of the bunch? It is? How are we supposed to know? She didn't accept her reply. You just gave us a bag with a bunch of things, while simply saying have fun. Alright, fair enough. There was little Sophia could defend herself with. It's amazing how you two instinctively went for the most satisfying toy out of the bunch first. As expected from the loud couple. Shush. Anyway, start with a regular vibrator, for example. Those are similar to the dildos that exist in this world. They just have a feature where they can move on their own and/or vibrate a little. Really? We actually skipped those because we thought they were just the regular kind. If they have some other feature, we'll give it a try. You should. The short tiger smiled at the tall one. There are also those small pink eggs with the cable attached to it. They're not overly stimulating, but they're very fun to play with and versatile, too. Those are a good start, too. That's true. Chloe also agreed. Steph loves it when I use them all over her body. Though, I combine them with a variety of other toys. There you have it. I see. The princess kept nodding with a big smile on her lips. I know what I'm going to do tonight. She seemed highly motivated. Ari and I mean. A good idea. The other two seemed to have the same plan now and, judging by their expressions, were already looking forward to it, too. Oh, speaking of, I'd like some more of those egg toys. Chloe looked at Sophia. Sure, how many? At least 8 would be great. So that I can use them at the same time on her. What are you two doing? Fun stuff. The three kept chatting about the same and similar topics for a little while longer, but as they had been in the hot spring for quite a while by now, they eventually decided to get out. Once they took a quick shower and dried themselves with the help of water and air magic, the girls got dressed again and chose to explore some more because it was still too early for their nightly bedroom plans and time to stop the horny. Okay, let's see where this one leads to. Finally wearing clothes again, the trio entered a crystal tunnel different from where they came from and followed it for a while with Sophia in the lead. It would be great if we can find something we can use to recreate this crystal wonderland in other areas. Not necessarily caves and tunnels, but a forest with a similar theme. Chloe was hoping for something exciting. I'd love that. Anna felt the same. Mira said that plants crystallize when they have been fed too much magic, right? The blonde tried to recall what the overseer told them the last time the topic came up. Doesn't that mean if we find ones that are already crystallized, it's too late, and we can't use them because they're not alive anymore? That's a good point. The fox hadn't thought about that either. Do we know if that's a requirement, though? The princess tilted her head and then pointed all around her. If magic created all of this out of thin air, it should be able to just grow a crystal forest if we find a sample, no? Or convert a regular forest into one by placing some crystals in the middle and using some power on it. That's definitely worth a try. Sophia energetically raised her arm in the air. Blue, sitting on her shoulder again, also lifted a wing while nodding a few times. Good thinking. Chloe gave the tall tiger a thumbs up. I like how you just throw out ideas. Well, I have no idea how magic works anymore, and the more I hear, the more confused I get. Though, I learned that simply blurting out the first thing that comes to mind usually is the solution and correct way to do things. Anna had learned a lot from Sophia and the others. True. The other two saw no flaw in her argumentation. Blue also nodded a few times. Having decided on something that somewhat resembled a plan in one way or another, the trio kept going for another hour while navigating through the underground tunnels. After a while, Sophia tilted her head while looking at the other two girls. Is it just me, or is this tunnel leading up? Yes, it seems like we've been ascending for a while already. The fox had noticed the same. Is it maybe leading us back to the surface? The princess took a wild guess. If we're lucky. The blonde smiled at her. Well, it's not like we couldn't make our own exit or simply use a portal to leave this place. It would be cool if it actually leads somewhere, though. That being said, it would be nice to run into something we can use for our forest first. True. Following the tunnel for another 15 minutes, their surroundings finally changed, and the group arrived at something new. Oh. Sophia got excited when the girls arrived at a small cave that was about 30 by 30 meters wide. While there were a lot fewer crystals around in total, there was a massive and different-looking cluster of them right in the middle, but the walls and floor were regular dirt. The cave was also filled with many plants of various different kinds. The mesmerizing part was that the middle part of the roof was missing and let in a lot of light from the surface. A few cherry trees could be seen, too, and many of their roots were visible in other parts of the roof. Oh. Chloe and Anna had the same reaction. Afterward, the trio took a better look at the cave for a moment while trying to figure out if it could somehow help them with their crystal forest plan. Chapter 074, Peculiar Crystal. Sophia, Anna, and Chloe finally left the underground hot spring they found and continued their exploration of the crystallized tunnels under the cherry blossom forest. After a little while, they came close to the surface again and found a small cave with a massive crystal cluster, many plants, and a partially open roof leading to the cherry blossoms, and took a better look at it. This is such a nice cave. Anna was a big fan of the place they found. Yeah. Sophia felt the same. I like the hole in the ceiling and how we can see the cherry blossoms from below. Chloe thought so, too. Let's just hope it's stable enough to support the trees so that it doesn't cave in and crush us. Oi. The tigers didn't appreciate that. I'm sure it'll be fine. The fox smiled at them before getting closer to the massive light pink crystal cluster in the very middle of the cave that was about 5 by 5 meters wide. This looks kinda important, doesn't it? Or ominous? I haven't decided yet. Would you stop already? The blonde glared at her. Blue, sitting on her shoulder, also shook its head a few times. It's pretty fun, but I'll try. Have you been hanging out with Maya lately? Sophia tried to find out why Chloe was being like that, and this was the most logical explanation. Every now and then, yes. Ah, I see. She nodded a few times in understanding. Regardless, you do have a point. The blonde moved closer to the crystal cluster. The important part, not the ominous one. How so? Anna also joined them and looked at the massive crystal, as well. It looks fancy, but other than that? It feels important. Sophia and Chloe synced up. I see. The princess nodded in understanding while her expression made clear that she had no idea what they were talking about. Blue, what do you think? The blonde turned her head a little to glance at the parakeet on her shoulder. It then looked back at her while tilting its head. A few moments later, it flapped its wings and took flight. In the air, Blue flew a few laps around the massive crystal cluster before landing on top of it. The second the bird touched it, the entire crystal instantly began to shine in a bright white light. Immediately after, Blue returned to Sophia's shoulder. Ah, now I see how it feels important. The tall tiger watched the spectacle with great interest. That was quite something. That's one way to put it. The shorter tiger felt similarly about it. Wait a moment, Chloe tilted her head while she looked at the crystal with a concentrated expression. I think it's radiating magic power now? Huh? Hearing that, Sophia also gave it her full attention. Oh, you're right. She noticed right away after having taken a better look. Blue, what did you do? Unfortunately, the parakeet only looked away when asked. You little, she knew full well that the bird knew exactly what was going on. Any idea what just happened? Anna got closer to the crystal and put her hand on it. At the same moment, it started shining again, although in a way paler light. Yeah? She immediately pulled away her hand. It felt like it was sucking out my magic. Seriously? Interested in that, Sophia did the same as her fellow tiger and also touched the cluster. Whoa. The instant she did, it lit up again. It was still nowhere near as bright as when Blue did it, but it was a noticeably stronger light than Anna's. Does it react to the individual authority? Chloe tilted her head. It would explain how our super bird almost blinded us, and how Sophia's reaction was much brighter than that of Anna. Saying so, she couldn't help herself and also placed her hand on it. Just as the other times before, it immediately began to glow once more. The intensity was somewhere in between the other two girls. Well, that confirms that idea. The fox kept her hand on it for 5 seconds longer before removing it. Also, that little moment just now took around 10% of my internal magic just like that. That much? The blonde's eyes grew wide. Wait, was the light intensity really our internal power? She tilted her head while looking at Chloe. Yours was right in between Anna's and mine. Aren't you supposed to be closer to me? Have you paid any attention to your own authority lately? The fox just looked back at her. Yeah, Anna nodded. I'm not that good at sensing it in great detail, but you almost have twice as much magic as Chloe. Eh? Sophia got only more confused and stared at the pink girl for a moment. When did you lose that much of your power? Did you share your magic with someone like Steph and I did before? It's not me who lost authority, you know? She lightly shook her head. You gained an absolutely significant amount instead. You're almost on the level of Aura already. At least on the detectable level. We both know that you've been way above her for a long time already, because you have overseer authority in you, which is more effective. Huh? The short tiger got loud. When did that happen? Also, why did no one tell me? We figured you'd already know, but also have no idea how or why it happened. Anna looked at her. That's why we decided to let it be. Eh. She wasn't a fan of the reasoning. For the when, it started happening after we left the capital. Chloe just continued. It made a massive jump a few days ago, though. So, during and after the cherry blossom forest? Sophia tilted her head. I hadn't noticed at all. I was super busy, but still. Why? She only got more confused. I've been using my authority nonstop by creating as much ambient and raw magic as possible, but that shouldn't have that much of an effect. See, that's why we didn't ask. The princess smiled at her. We knew you wouldn't know. Why does that sound so rude? The blonde still didn't like it. My theory is that it's related to your domain. The fox still took a guess. I mean, that's the only thing to make any sort of sense. Oh. Anna clapped her hands. Do you think they're linked? She looked at Chloe. Like, whenever the domain grows, she does, too. The cherry blossoms and the whole area here, in general, were quite the leaps, right? Sophia's powers making a leap during the same time sounds like it would make sense, doesn't it? The other three, Blue included, just stared at her. What? She didn't appreciate their stares. I hadn't thought about that idea at all. The fox seemed impressed. It's such a good theory, though. It works so well, too. The overseer domains have to have some special features we don't know about yet. Something like this would fit in perfectly. Really? Sophia wasn't so sure about the theory. Don't you think Mira would have mentioned that when she explained the domain and how it works to me? Mira? Chloe stared at her. The one who didn't tell me that she's my mother for almost 20 years? The one that loves to be entertained by only giving partial information about a situation because she wants to see how it turns out? The one that only explains things after we managed to get about 70% of the way there ourselves? You win that round. The blonde had nothing to say there. Also, you're still salty about the mom part, huh? I obviously am. She nodded a few times. I love her, though, and I'm feeling close to her again, so it's mostly fine. The same goes for Fei Fei. I'm still upset that the two hid the fact that we're family for so long, but they had their reasons. Stupid reasons, but we went over that enough already. Well, that much is fair. Sophia couldn't blame her for it. Anyway, do you two really think I'm linked with my domain in such a way, and my powers grow when it grows? Yes. They were very convinced of what they had just come up with. It definitely would be amazing. The blonde was starting to like the idea. That means everyone has to start pumping their magic into my domain constantly. The Sophia tax will be significantly raised. Oh no, she's drunk on power. I knew this day would happen eventually. Chloe and Anna just looked at each other. What's that supposed to mean? The short tiger glared at the princess. If I have more magic, I can make the domain even better, meaning you all can do more fun stuff in here, too. Also, I want to boost everyone's powers. Especially those of Ari and you, Anna. She faced the princess. You have so many great ideas, and our jaguar also shows some very promising things when using magic, so I want to see you at full power. I don't want to be the only one to grow in power. Everyone, at least to some degree, should grow with me. Right now, I couldn't even create a forest the way I wanted it to be in one go, so I first have to get a lot stronger before I can do that comfortably. Ah. The girls were touched by her intent. Blue also happily chirped while flapping its wings a few times. The bird also liked how she was treating magic and its powers. Well, I'd still say I'm selfish, because a big part of my motivation is my domain, but thanks for the reaction. Sophia smiled at them. Being able to make you all have more fun is also quite important to me. Don't ruin it now. Chloe slowly shook her head. Yeah. Anna agreed with the fox. Although, if one of the side effects is me receiving a lot more magic power to keep, I'd even support you if your goal is world domination. The tall tiger was even more selfish. I'm literally building my own new world right now, so, Sophia scratched her cheek. I have no interest in the outside world in that regard, but you aren't exactly wrong. World building, what we've been doing nonstop lately, sounds better, so I'll choose that. Close enough of a distinction. Let's go. The princess energetically raised her arm. Sure, why not? Chloe just shrugged. Let's go. Let's go. Sophia and Blue also raised their arm, respectively wing. Afterward, more motivated than ever, the group continued to study and experiment with the crystal cluster to find out what was going on with it and why it was hungry for magic. Chapter 075, Magic Storage. The trio was still in the small cave under the cherry blossom forest and busy studying the crystal cluster that sucked out their magic power when touching it. Naturally, as they were a curious bunch, they just had to find out what it was for. Alrighty, back to this thing. Sophia pointed at the massive crystal. Does anyone have any idea what our new overlord is? Eh? You already started worshipping it? Chloe just stared at her. It looks majestic and is able to drain our magic in seconds. What's not to worship here? Fair point. The fox nodded a couple of times. It is? Anna couldn't follow their logic. Absolute dash, oi. The blonde was interrupted by Blue on her shoulder, who had headbutted her cheek strong enough to make her stop talking. Don't worry, you're still my number one overlord. The crystal is just a lesser one. It's not going to beat you anytime soon. She then gently patted its head a couple of times. Hey! A second later, Blue flapped its wings so hard that it almost swept Sophia off her feet as it took flight before landing on a root that was hanging from the ceiling. Someone doesn't like to be messed with, huh? Chloe looked at the parakeet with a wry expression. Yeah, Maud dash, Blue really doesn't like to be teased. Sophia had some experience with that, after all. Aside from the fact that I was kinda serious. Oh, wait a moment. Or did you get upset over how we weren't treating the crystal thingy seriously enough and were just playing around? She faced the bird while tilting her head, causing it to move its head up and down a couple of times. What should we do, though? Anna stared at the crystal. Should we give it what it wants? Chloe did the same. Feeding it as much magic as we can, that is. We might as well try. The blonde shrugged. The worst that can happen is it, together with all of us, exploding, after all. And you complained about my remarks earlier. The fox lightly glared at the short tiger, who had gotten quite loud over her teasing regarding bad events from before. You got me there. Sophia had nothing to say there. Blue, you're the one who showed us that the thing's special. You better make sure it doesn't explode on us. She looked right at the bird, who in return lifted its right wing in a way that looked like it was saluting to the tiger. You sure have a lot of faith in our little bird friend, huh? Anna's eyes wandered between Sophia and Blue. Of course. She just nodded. I mean, Blue can easily beat us up and then some, so protecting us should be no issue, either. Sophia smiled at the bird, who then puffed up its chest to make itself look even more important. So cute. It didn't have quite the desired effect on the girls, though. Good enough for me. The princess was happy with that explanation and reaction. Alright, Anna, you go first. The short tiger smiled at her fellow tall one. Why me? She wasn't a fan of the plan. Because, as of now, you're the one with the least amount of magic authority around. Which means you're the least risk of making the crystal explode. Chloe completed the blonde's reasoning. Anna liked that just as little, for even more reasons. Well, good point, though. It did make a lot of sense, after all. Alright, fine. Agreeing to the plan, albeit somewhat reluctantly, the princess then got closer to the crystal again and placed her hand on it. Immediately upon touching it, the cluster began to dimly glow, and roughly 20 seconds later, she retracted her hand again. I'm already basically empty. Huh. The other two girls ignored her and stared at the crystal instead. Curiously enough, while not as strong as when Anna had her hand on it, it was still ever so slightly glowing. Is it storing the magic it sucked out of me? The tall tiger tilted her head. Maybe? The shorter striped girl wasn't sure either. I can feel some power radiating off of it now, though, so you might be right with that. She nodded a few times. Shall I go next? Chloe pointed at herself while looking at the blonde. Sure. She just nodded. Let's go. Highly motivated, the fox placed her hand on the crystal and left it there for a little over a minute. While she was doing that, the cluster lit up considerably more and stayed like that even after she was done, too. Okay, it's definitely storing magic inside. Once Chloe was done, Sophia concentrated on the crystal. I can roughly feel the same power from it that you two poured into it. Surprisingly, depleting all of your authority in like a minute is no fun at all. The fox sounded a little tired. Not being able to recover in your domain only makes it worse, too. True. Anna nodded a few times. Well, it would make little sense to recover here when I want to flood my domain with raw magic. That's also used to reset your authority once it enters your body, after all. The blonde shrugged, because there was nothing she could do. Fair enough, but still. The two weren't happy about it. So, my turn now, huh? Sophia just ignored them and placed her hand on the crystal. The second she did that, it started shining on a level that easily overpowered the level of Chloe's reaction from before. It was nowhere near the eye-searing brightness Blue had caused when the bird had briefly landed on the cluster before. She left her hand on it for about 2 minutes before removing it again, and once it was done, the crystal kept shining in a noticeably brighter light than before. Okay, I have to agree, getting your magic sucked out that fast is a bit much, at least if you aren't doing it voluntarily. We know. The two showed no sympathy after they went through the same before. What now, though? The short tiger was still staring at the glowing cluster. A good question. Anna tilted her head. Chloe, what's next? Why me? You're the one who suggested feeding it magic. The princess looked at the fox. So, what's step 2? What gave you the impression that I have a plan or even know what's going on? The pink girl shrugged in return. I'm not necessarily surprised. Anna just smiled. How about you come up with something? Chloe threw the ball back at the tall tiger. Eh? She paused for a moment. Should we bring it to the cottage? It's really pretty, and the glow's looking great, too. It would look nice in front of the cottage's entrance. I wasn't thinking about decorative uses, but sure, you're not wrong. The fox scratched her cheek while nodding once. You two are something else. Sophia rolled her eyes. Blue, while I agree with them that it would look nice, there surely have to be some better uses for this thing, right? She pointed at the cluster while looking at the parakeet. In return, the bird moved its head up and down a few times. See? The blonde then faced the other two. And what would that be? The duo, naturally, couldn't interpret much into the nodding of a parakeet. A good question. The short tiger didn't have more details either. Is it possible that we can use the crystal as a storage for magic? She tilted her head. If it goes in, it should be able to come out again, too, right? It could be. Chloe nodded a few times. What use would that be, though? That would be the best thing ever. Anna suddenly got loud. You have a use for that? Sophia faced her fellow tiger. Absolutely. She nodded a few times. It would help me use bigger magic with more power than I currently have, wouldn't it? Oh? The other two seemed surprised. It means that after charging it a couple or many times, I would be able to use the same types of magic as Sophia does, doesn't it? The princess sounded really excited. If I get it out of the crystal and use it together with my own magic at the same time, I mean. Oh. The blonde and pink girl also got louder. I'm not sure if that even works, but it's worth a try, isn't it? Absolutely. The two heartily agreed. Maybe it could also be used in our biomes. Anna wasn't done with her ideas just yet. Mira said that some stuff, like mutations, can use a lot of the ambient magic thingy, right? I can't see that like you too, and I also have a hard time feeling it unless it's really a lot. I can easily sense it in the crystal, though. Maybe you can place a charged one in the middle of the biome you're currently creating and release it at once to create some extra fancy effects. Wow. Sophia sounded impressed by her ideas. We definitely need to try that out. Wait a moment, Chloe seemed to be thinking about something. That biome thing sounds very interesting. Right now, we have crystal filled with so much magic that the glow is hurting my eyes. We're in a cave with many crystal tunnels leading to and from it, right under a portion of the cherry blossom forest. What would happen to the area if we managed to release the stored magic? We need to try that out. Sophia nodded a few times. Maybe we can grow the crystal tunnel structure all the way to the trees and turn them into the same. Let's go. The other tiger felt the same. How do we get it out, though? No idea. The two shook their heads. Blue, who had been watching them until now, then suddenly took flight again and landed on the cluster. It instantly turned so bright that the girls needed to avert their eyes, but it thankfully stopped again after 5 seconds. Interestingly enough, while it was still shining to some degree, the white to light pink color of the crystal changed to a very deep pink and purple instead. Whoa! The girls had the same reaction. Wait, now it really has the exact same color as ambient magic. Chloe noticed something familiar in the color. You're right. Sophia thought so, too. Does that mean it's full? As in, that's as much magic the crystal can store? Oh, that would make sense. The fox could follow her explanation. Hearing that, Blue, who was still sitting on it, nodded a few times while flapping its wings. Oh. They got even more excited. Can we use it now? Sophia looked at the parakeet. Immediately after, a portal appeared in front of the girls, and Blue used one of its wings to gesture at it, urging them to step through it. Ah, Blue's up to something. The blonde was used to the random portals already. Let's go and see what's going to happen. She was the first to enter it before the other two also followed after her. The last thing they saw before disappearing through the portal was another blinding light illuminating the cave before they arrived at the other side. Chapter 076, Surprise in the Making. Sophia, Chloe, and Anna had left the cave with the massive crystal cluster that would suck out their magic when touched, for which, with the help of Blue, they eventually came to the conclusion that it wouldn't steal but rather store it for later use in one way or another. Afterward, they all emptied their magic into the crystal to see what would happen, but Blue made them leave the cave for some reason. And we're back home. After they took the portal out of the cave they were in, the trio found themselves in front of their usual cottage. No way, did Blue seriously throw us out just now? Anna faced her fellow tiger after they were made to use the portal the parakeet created for them. Was it doing something after we left? Chloe tilted her head. I saw some sort of bright flash right before I stepped through the portal. I saw that, too. The princess nodded a few times. Blue heard that we want a crystal forest, so maybe it's creating one by using the stored magic in the cluster? Your guess is as good as mine. The blonde shrugged. I think so, too, though. But why can't we watch? The fox was confused over why they had to take the portal. Probably because Blue wants to surprise us. Sophia had an easy explanation. After all, our dear parakeet is a playful one. That's true. The two thought so, too. Now we have to wait for Before the short tiger was able to finish her sentence, Blue appeared through the portal and quickly flew over Sophia to land in its favorite spot. Her left shoulder, that is. Welcome back. Chloe smiled at the bird. Are you done? Can we take a look now? In response to that, the parakeet shook its head a few times while also crossing its wings. I guess that's a no. The blonde looked to the side to see Blue's reaction. Is it going to take a little longer before it's done? In return to that, the bird nodded. Such a tease. The princess didn't like that. At least tell me it's just a day and not more than that. She wasn't patient enough for it to take even longer. Luckily, Blue slightly turned to face her and then reacted with an even bigger nod. Well, that's something, at least. I really hope this will only affect a small portion of my beloved cherry blossom forest. Sophia kept looking at the bird. After all, I think it's perfect, and I'd be devastated if too much gets turned into something else. The second she finished her sentence, Blue completely froze up. A few moments later, the bird flew away from the blonde's shoulder and disappeared through the portal before returning roughly 5 minutes later. Someone needed to fix something, huh? Chloe took a guess on what just happened. Blue had no intention to face her and just turned its head away, though. Ahaha. Everyone had to chuckle over the bird's reaction. By the way, where are the perverts? The girls, and Blue, went inside the cottage and got comfortable when Sophia looked at Anna and Chloe. I can't sense them in my domain, so it seems they're out. That's weird. The princess tilted her head. Ari told me that she'll go to Finn's biome to help him out some more. I love you. The blonde smiled at her fellow tiger. Yes, I can sense her, too. I was talking about Maya and Steph. Ah. Anna got a little embarrassed. About that, Chloe scratched her cheek. The two went to Myra's domain to ask her about some things. What are they up to? You don't want to know. The fox and the princess shook their heads. Why? Sophia tilted her head. Before they left and you came to get us for the ravine, the two got excited about all sorts of things. Chloe rolled her eyes while answering her. Now I need to know. The short tiger naturally got curious. Long story short, Steph and Maya went to Mira because they wanted to ask her if it's possible to make a tentacle forest. Why? The blonde got loud. Because they're perverts. The fox had an easy explanation for it. Well, I'm sure they were just messing with us, because they know we heard them. Sophia didn't seem so sure about it. It's far from the first time I heard them mentioning tentacles. I think it might be time to be concerned. Why? Anna looked confused. It sounds kind of fun, doesn't it? I mean, they'd be controlled by the girls, so being tied up while they, Ari in my case, have their way with you using the tentacles, no? The other two just stared at the uber pervert with a slightly agape mouth. The tall tiger's face instantly turned bright red before she turned her head away. Well, I can't say that's unexpected coming from you. Sophia smiled at the princess. How's that not being a bottom, though? Chloe tilted her head while she remembered their earlier conversation. Or wait, do you want to use them on Ari, too? Shush. Anna didn't want to answer that and just lightly glared at her. Chloe. The blonde then faced the fox. Yes? She stared back at her. You need to make sure to power Steph out tonight. Sophia sounded oddly serious. To a level where she forgets all about their plan. I'll do my best. The pink girl nodded a few times. You do the same with Maya. Of course. Why don't you two just tell them that you don't want to engage in those activities? Once Anna stopped being embarrassed, she tilted her head while looking at the duo. They didn't reply. Are you concerned you might like it when you hear them suggesting it? Her voice turned a little playful. That would be awful, wouldn't it? Shush. They didn't want to answer that and just lightly glared at her. Hee hee. Anna liked that she was able to get the upper hand here. Anyway. Sophia wanted to change the topic. Do you think we should tell the others of the fancy new hot spring we found, or should that be our little secret because we already have 2 public ones? I mean, Chloe scratched her cheek. A secret sounds fun, but Steph will kill us if she ever finds out that we kept a hot spring from her. She really loves them, after all. Is it really the hot spring she loves, though? The princess wasn't so sure about that. I think it's more about the view. The fox paused for a second. You aren't wrong, but the result is still the same because she wasn't with us when we went there. Fair enough. Anna could get behind her reasoning now. Also, I think that going there with everyone, just like the other places, sounds more fun. Fair enough. The shorter tiger agreed. One of the more eventful days, huh? Yes. The other two felt the same. Speaking of eventful days. Anna. The blonde suddenly faced her fellow tiger. Yes? She looked back at her. What is it? It's no secret that besides my complete lack of directional sense, I also have no sense for time either. We know. The other two girls and Blue nodded in agreement. Hey. She glared at the parakeet, who was munching on some seeds the blonde had placed on the table before them. It's too early for you to join them in these topics. In response to that, the bird only lightly lifted its wings, as if shrugging, before returning its focus to the seeds. Blue fits so well into our group. Anna and Chloe liked its sass. Gore. Sophia didn't, though. Anyway, not important right now. Ellie. We talked about her birthday a few days, maybe a week ago? That means her birthday definitely is right around the corner now. It is. The princess nodded. On the coming weekend, to be exact. Ari and I wanted to go to the capital either tomorrow or the day after to get her a present. And you didn't plan to tell me? She got loud. Maya knows about it. Anna shrugged. I told her about our plan, and we decided to bring you and her with us. Chloe can naturally come, too. She briefly smiled at the fox. And why no mention to me? Sophia raised her voice even more. I arguably love her the most. I'm still her sister. The princess stared at her. And? She had no comeback for that. We're doing a lot lately, and it's not easy to get a hold of you lately, between your trips and the creation of the cherry forest. It just slipped my mind. We definitely would have taken you with us when we were going to leave for the capital. Okay, I'm fine with that. The blonde started smiling again. I can't wait. I hope Ellie won't be too mad with you. Anna looked at Sophia with a wry smile. After all, you haven't visited her once since we left all those many weeks ago. She froze. I'll do my best to make it up to her. The short tiger was honestly frightened about that possibility. Don't worry. Chloe showed her an honest smile instead. Ellie loves you too much to be mad for longer than 5 minutes. 5 minutes of Ellie being mad at me is 6 minutes longer than I can take. It only made it worse for the blonde. Well, it's your fault for not visiting her sooner. The fox had no nice words left. She hung her head. Luckily, Steph, Maya, and Ari returned mere moments later, and the situation was resolved by being distracted by them. It seemed like Finn went to Aura instead, as well as Faye and Mira having stayed behind in the overseer's domain, making it only the 6 girls in the cottage. They didn't stay long there, though. Steph instantly smelled something odd, and after intensely sniffing her sister and then her girlfriend afterward with great vigor, she linked the smell to them, having been in a hot spring, one with a mineral composition she hadn't smelled before. Naturally, she demanded to be taken there to inspect it and take it for a test to determine whether it was worthy of her exquisite tastes. With that, the girls spent their evening in the underground crystal cavern hot spring. Chapter 077, Forest Changes. The explorer trio returned from their expedition of the caves below the cherry blossom forest and the massive crystal cluster that absorbed their magic powers. Blue did something with that cluster, but as it needed time to develop, the results would only be visible the day after. While waiting, the girls made some more plans for Ellie's upcoming birthday and what to do there before taking yet another dip in the underground hot spring after Steph found out about it. This better be good, Blue. Anna, Chloe, and Sophia were together again the day after they explored the caves beneath the cherry blossom forest, and the princess stared at the bird sitting on the blonde's shoulder. In response to that, the parakeet fluffed up its feathers to make itself look more important while chirping a couple of times. Someone's confident, huh? The fox smiled at Blue. I can't wait to see it. That sure are some grand expectations, huh? Sophia gently patted the bird's head. I just hope my beautiful forest is still in one piece. Hearing that, the bird on her shoulder froze for a brief moment. Oi. She didn't like that reaction. Instead of reacting to her, Blue simply took flight and disappeared through a portal it created just in time before the group. I love that parakeet. Smiling broadly, Chloe also stepped through the portal. What she said. Anna then did the same, as well. I don't disagree, I love that literal bundle of magic the most, but, not finishing her sentence, the short tiger quickly followed after them. Wow. On the other side of the portal, all three girls immediately had the same reaction. They didn't arrive in the cave from before, but in the actual cherry blossom forest above it. Or, to be more exact, what was left of it. Things had changed drastically since the previous day they were there. A sizable portion of the forest had significantly changed its properties. Everything, the ground, the grass, the tree trunks, branches, and every single leaf and blossom, crystallized. The shape was still clearly visible, and it still had some resemblance to the original color, like green for the grass or brown for the trunks, but the surface of everything had turned smooth and shiny together with an extra coating of various pink hues on top of it. This is the coolest thing ever. Sophia was the first to say something past the initial wow reaction they all had before. True. The other two nodded a couple of times. Where is W.O.? The blonde took a few steps around the area and immediately stopped when she heard crunching sounds beneath her feet. Looking down and behind her, she noticed that the crystallized grass she stepped on shattered into tiny pieces. So brittle. I guess they're not on the same level as diamonds, huh? That's a little disappointing. Why? Chloe and Anna tilted their heads. Monetary value. As usual, the short tiger was completely shameless. Are you in need of money? The fox only got more confused. Not at all. She shook her head. In fact, the few projects I have going on with the king and the payments from the inventions I rented out or sold give me more than I can reasonably spend. Then shush. Ahaha. Sophia smiled at her in return. Would still be cool if this place would all be diamonds, wouldn't it? Good point. Chloe couldn't refute that. While it likely won't be on the level of diamonds, I think those crystals would still be worth a pretty something. Anna got closer to a cherry blossom tree and picked a crystallized blossom from it. Look how pretty it is. She held up her hand with the blossom on top of her palm. I'm sure it would sell incredibly well as an accessory or decorations. That's brilliant. The blonde liked her suggestion. We'd need to destroy this beautiful place to sell it, though. The fox had a more mixed reaction to the idea and scratched her cheek while looking around. It seems like a waste to me. Especially when considering that you aren't in need of money. She slowly shook her head while looking at the greedy, short tiger. That's fair. Sophia nodded in agreement. Well, we could still make a separate secluded area for harvesting, but you do have a point there. Yeah, we don't really have to do that for the time being. We should give some to Ellie, though. The princess looked at the crystal in her hand again. She loves cherry blossoms and everything that sparkles. To be honest, I think she'd like this more than any other present we could possibly find when we go shopping later. Really? The blonde's eyes grew wide after learning this valuable information. Oh, wait, now that I think about it, she absolutely loved the cherry blossoms in the royal garden back in March before we left. Exactly. Sophia then changed her attention to a massive crystallized cherry blossom tree in front of the group. Interesting. You're going to place one of those trees in the castle's garden, aren't you? Anna didn't have a hard time guessing her intention. Right in front of Ellie's room. The short tiger's eyes were sparkling. Poor Menzer. Chloe just felt sorry for the king. He'll be fine. Both tigers just smiled at her. By the way, where has the cave gone? The fox decided that it was time for a change of topic instead. It's still the same area, so it should be somewhere below us, right? Asking all the right questions. Now that she remembered it, the blonde was wondering about the same. Blue, where is it? She turned her head to glance at the usual bird that was sitting on her shoulder and had stayed silent up until now. In return, the parakeet tilted its head for a moment before quickly taking flight soon after. Blue flew around for a couple of seconds before it eventually began drawing circles in the air roughly 20 meters to the left of the girls. Such a good guide. Smiling at the bird, Chloe was the first to start walking in Blue's direction. That's why we work so well together. Sophia was right behind her. Keeps me from getting lost in my own domain. I'm not sure if you should sound so confident here. Anna lightly rolled her eyes while she followed after the fellow tiger. Oh. Arriving where the parakeet was, the trio immediately got loud again. There was a small opening in the crystallized ground, and looking down through it, they could spot the massive crystal cluster from before again. It had stopped glowing and returned to its light pink and translucent hue from when they first found it. Everything around it inside the cave had completely crystallized, as well. Is it empty again? The princess tried to interpret the change in the crystal. It seems like it. The fox thought so, too. I can't feel any magic from it anymore, either. I guess it was used to change the area, huh? Sophia gently patted Blue's head, who had landed on her shoulder again. Good job. In response, the bird nodded once and then only further pressed its head against her hand to get pet even more. Is it possible to get more of those charging crystals? Anna looked at the bird with a questioning expression. Pausing for a moment, Blue then nodded again while looking back at the princess. Awesome. I want one near the cottage so that I can charge it up whenever I'm nearby. Once it's charged enough, I'll finally start my own biome for real and kick it off with a bang. A literal bang? Sophia raised an eyebrow in return. Probably. The princess was in a good mood. I'm looking forward to it. The shorter blonde was, too. I still need to do that, too. Chloe nodded a few times. I helped Steph make hers, but I have yet to start my own biome. How cold is it going to be? Sophia had a bad feeling about it. Yes. Looking at the crystallized part of the forest a little while longer, the group eventually returned to the cottage and met up with Ari, Maya, and Steph there. Alright, we have come together here for the most important thing since we've left the capital. I want everyone at full attention. The blonde audibly clapped her hands while her gaze wandered from one girl to another while they were in the living room. What's this about? Ari leaned over to Anna to find out what was going on and why the short tiger seemed so serious. Ellie's birthday. The princess just rolled her eyes while answering the jaguar. She didn't seem overly surprised. Anna, Chloe, and I already have an amazing present for the bestest girl, but I also want to get her something that's just from me. Everything who also wants to get her a present is welcome to join us for the capital. Ignoring the part where it was my idea to go to the capital, I'm coming with you, yeah. Ari wasn't sure how to feel about her idea having been stolen. Well, you know how much she loves to be in the center of attention. Maya smiled at her. True. Hey. The attention-seeking tiger raised her voice. Once Sophia calmed down again, the girls made some more plans for Ellie's upcoming birthday before eventually returning to the Beastfolk capital by taking a portal to their mansion there. Chapter 078, Present Shopping. Sophia, Anna, and Chloe checked up on the place where they poured their magic into a crystal to charge it up and were happy to find out that the whole area had turned into a wonderland where even the cherry blossom trees had gotten crystallized and become extra sparkly. Afterward, they reunited with Ari, Steph, and Maya to make plans for Ellie's upcoming birthday before heading to the capital together. By the way, what is everyone getting for the little princess? Back in the mansion, Sophia was curious about everyone's plans. She always loves the clothes I get her, so I'll be buying her a new outfit for late spring and early summer. Ari already had a solid plan. That sister of mine likes to draw and goes through crayons like there's no tomorrow. Anna continued. I wanted to get her an extra big and colorful set to go wild on. Oh, I like that. The blonde was a fan of the ideas so far. Plushies. Steph and Chloe seemed highly motivated, as well. She already has some that look like Steph and me in animal form, so we're going to try and complete the set. The fox added some more details. Exactly. The dog just nodded. Good luck. If you find a Maya plushie, I want one, too. Sure thing. The duo smiled at the short tiger. I'm still not entirely sure. The cat girl in question scratched her cheek. She was really into the pottery session with the clay back when we made Kira's present together with her. Because of that, I was thinking about something arts and craft related, as well. She's really good with all things creative. Sophia nodded a few times. What about you? Maya threw the question back at her. Any ideas for a gift? I have a few, but I'm starting to warm up to something immaterial instead. I'll think about it some more. She scratched her cheek. For now, let's go shopping. I might change my mind during that again. Okay. Everyone agreed with her. Afterward, they got ready to leave the mansion and went to one of the capital's shopping districts to get their presents for Ellie. The rest of the day passed in the blink of an eye, and everyone successfully managed to get something for the upcoming birthday of the little princess. So, in the end, you went with a bracelet, huh? On the way back to the mansion, Anna glanced at the small bag the blonde was holding. Well, it looked super cute when I saw it in the window, so I had to get it. Fair enough. The taller tiger just nodded. It was pretty cute. Ellie will love it, too. She's a big fan of those colorful gemstones that are on it. Great. Sophia was glad to hear it. I might add and/or replace some of them with the ones from our crystal forest after shaping and polishing them. That's a great idea. Anna smiled at her. Makes it super personal, too. Glad to hear. The what now? Steph and Maya synced up. Ari also tilted her head in response. Oh, right, you've only seen the hot spring with the crystals around it, huh? The blonde scratched her cheek. There are countless tunnels around it that are made purely from crystals leading to the surface, among other places. There, Chloe, Anna, Blue, and I played around with some other stuff and turned a part of my cherry blossom forest into crystals. And it's amazing. Chloe and Anna replied at the same time. I want to see it. The dog and cat girl raised their voices. Sure, we can take a look later once we're back home. She just smiled at them. Awesome. A little while later, the group returned to the mansion and were about to head into the domain when Sophia suddenly stopped while tilting her head. Anna and Chloe, could you two show them the crystallized forest? Maybe also collect Fenny and Aura, as well? I just noticed that I forgot something. The blonde awkwardly scratched her cheek. Maya, could you help me? Sure thing. The fox and the princess nodded in return, and everyone besides the cat girl took the portal to the other side. So, what did you see with your detection magic? Once she was alone with her tiger, Maya stared right at her. That awe of yours always means the same. Ahaha. The tiger could only laugh. I really need to learn some new tricks. So? She just kept staring. I detected a certain couple walking towards the mansion, and I thought it would be best to wait and greet them. Certain couple? The cat girl looked confused. Kira and the king? Why would I want you to stay behind, then? Good point. She hadn't thought that far. Wait. Are you talking about my parents? It would be highly unlikely to be mine, wouldn't it? The blonde rolled her eyes. Yes, Theo and Eve are heading this way. I might have slightly forgotten about the part that they're still in the capital. What a horrible daughter you are. Sophia couldn't believe her. As if you're any better. I had tea with Eve just last week. Yeah. She hadn't seen that one coming. How? Where was I? I ran into her when I made a quick trip to here. No idea where you were, though. You really are something else. Maya had nothing better to say. I was talking about your parents, though. It's gotten quite quiet around that topic lately. Sophia's expression turned awkward. To be fair, my situation is a lot more complicated than you forgetting about your parents still being in the capital. You are not wrong with that, but my point still stands. I'm still planning to bring them to my domain at some point, but I'm not sure how to tackle that. It would be cool if they stay because this world is objectively better, but it's not as easy as that. The fact that we're traveling or playing with the biomes in your domain all day isn't really helping either, is it? The cat girl tilted her head. Most of the time, your parents would be alone in this world, not to mention the part where they're humans. I mean, you and Steph are one thing, both of you turned into the beast folk like it was nothing, but I assume your parents are grown up and at least somewhat reasonable, right? They wouldn't swap species just like that, wouldn't they? That's why I said my situation is way more complicated. The blonde raised her voice. Yeah. Should we have our parents meet? Maya hadn't seen that one coming, either. I can't even wrap my head around the number of issues that would arise with that. I know. The tiger scratched her cheek. It would also solve a lot of other ones, though. Also, at some point, I'll have to tell your parents more about me, anyway, so we might as well go all the way with it. Are you sure about that? Absolutely not. Sophia shook her head. I just really want to have my family here. I can't and won't force them, though. So, I need to make it as appealing as possible for them. I still have no idea how to solve many things regarding that, but having someone to talk to is a start, is it not? That is true. Maya nodded. Still, telling my parents about it, huh? You don't want me to? It's not that I don't, but, she paused for a moment. My parents are pretty normal. I have no idea how they'd taken something like that. They love me, though. Sophia turned a little smug. I wonder if that's a good or a bad thing in this situation. She needed another moment. I'm willing to try if you're okay with it. I'm not going to stop you if that's what you want. The cat girl smiled at her. Are we doing it today? Will you go and fetch your parents? That might be skipping a few steps. The blonde hadn't planned to go that far just yet. Let's start with telling Theo and Eve today and see how it goes. Okay. Maya just nodded. Should we go and meet them, then? Before they leave the area again, I mean. I don't think we have to. She shook her head. They're still headed right for the mansion and should be in front of the entrance in a few minutes. What are they doing here in the first place? What makes you think I know? Sophia tilted her head. I was just thinking loudly. The cat girl shrugged. Maybe they saw us shopping and decided to meet us here. She still tried to make a guess. That might be it. Maya had no better explanation, either. While waiting for them, the couple tried to form a rough plan on how Sophia should tell them about her circumstances to keep the impact manageable. Afterward, they left the mansion a couple of minutes later to welcome Maya's parents at the gate of their mansion. Chapter 079, Filling in the Parents. The girls went to the capital to get presents for Ellie's upcoming birthday. Once they got everything they wanted and were about to head back to the domain, Sophia noticed that Maya's parents were nearby, thanks to her detection magic, and she decided to stay behind together with the cat girl to meet them. While waiting for them, the blonde also chose to tell them about her past because she hoped they would help her with her own family. Sophia. In front of the mansion, once they saw each other, the tiger and Maya's mother immediately hugged each other. Good to see you, Eve. The blonde was just as enthusiastic about meeting the black and white-haired cat girl. How's your back doing, Theo? She then smiled at the brown-haired middle-aged cat man. Better than ever, thanks to you. He was also smiling. Glad to hear. I'm happy to see you, too. Mom. Dad. Maya, the actual daughter, was slightly upset over her treatment. Being fully ignored, that is. Oh, I hadn't seen you there. Finally letting go of Sophia, Eve then faced her. Alright, I'm going home. The white-haired cat girl already had enough and turned to face the mansion. I leave your favorite daughter here. Glancing at Sophia, she then started walking towards the building. Oi. The blonde grabbed her arm and stopped her from moving. You're staying. Ugh. I'm just playing around. Saying so, Eve then also hugged her daughter. I have, in fact, missed you, too. HMPF, she was still pouting. Would you be interested in traveling with us? Sophia faced Eve. The reactions you get out of Maya are amazing. That's never going to happen. The white-haired cat girl got loud. I'm not going to travel with my parents. I would have to hold back way too much. Hold back? Her mother tilted her head. About what? I am not going to tell you. The perpetually horny girl had no intention of disclosing this fact. Ehe. Anyway, what brings you two here? Maya decided to change the topic. We saw you and your friends go shopping together, but as we didn't want to disturb you, we decided to try our luck here instead. Theo answered her. Ah, I see. Do you two have some time at the moment? Sophia turned a little more serious. Yes. Maya's parents nodded. Afterward, the blonde guided everyone into the mansion's living room, where they got comfortable on the sofas. Okay, that's a complicated one. I wonder where to start. The tiger awkwardly scratched her cheek while looking at Maya's parents. If you're trying to tell us right now that you and Maya are going to break up, I'll never forgive you. Eve didn't like the feeling of the current conversation. There are no such plans. The couple shook their heads. Out with it, then. Maya's mother smiled at the blonde. It can't be too bad, then. I never said it's bad. It's just a very complicated topic. She let out a sigh. It's about my past and family. Oh. Hearing that, Theo and Eve immediately changed to a serious expression, too. I met my parents roughly half a year ago, and you've seen the violet-haired dog girl together with us a few times, right? That's Steph. She's my sister. Sophia decided to just get over with it. Yeah? Eve raised her voice. But I thought your family was gone, yes. The blonde nodded. Not dead, even though it may sounded like it back then. I'm sorry about that. They went missing, or rather, I went missing. Until something happened, it was impossible for me to reunite with them. How? Excellent question. Sophia scratched her cheek. My background's a little more complicated than just being somewhat of a member of the royal family. She moved around her striped tail a little to bring the point of being a tiger across. And that's already plenty complicated. Maya rolled her eyes. Not helping. Wasn't planning to. Anyway, lightly glaring at her girlfriend, she then continued. I come from a very remote place. Technically, it was quite true. In fact, I come from another world. Theo and Eve just went silent and blinked a couple of times while staring at the tiger with an expression of pure confusion. What? What a relatable reaction. Maya looked strangely nostalgic. So, all you're doing today is unneeded comments, huh? The blonde faced her cat. It's one of those days, isn't it? I'm here to break the tension. She just gave her a thumbs up. Ah, I see. Hold on a moment. Maya's mother got loud. What do you mean? Exactly. Her father reacted with a few big nods. What are you talking about? It sounds a little stupid, doesn't it? Sophia looked a little awkward. Very understandable. Yes. Theo agreed. Especially because you're always so reasonable, which makes this sort of joke even more ridiculous. I think so, too. Eve felt the same. Ahaha. The blonde glanced at Maya, who was only slowly shaking her head in a disapproving manner over how her parents still thought that her girlfriend was reasonable. Okay, so what is this really about? Obviously, the two still weren't believing the tiger. It's true what I said. She looked right at them with a serious expression. I really am from a different world. That's the reason I wasn't able to see my family for the longest time. They had stayed behind in that other world while I was here with no means to return. I was able to do just that half a year ago, though. While doing so, Steph decided to come with me to live here in this much better world while my parents are still undecided on what to do and where to stay. It's true. Maya decided to be helpful, after all. I've seen it. It's definitely another world because there's no way such a place exists around here. And no way. They were still unable to believe it. If it helps you to believe it, Kinnear's the one who brought her to this world. The white-haired cat girl was helpful for exactly 7 seconds. Her parents were unable to react in spoken words. Could you go back to unneeded remarks? Sophia glared at her. I don't need that kind of help right now. Why? Maya glared back. Shock value is the easiest way to make someone understand. I'd know because it's a common occurrence when around you. That may be true, but your parents deserve a more tactful approach. I don't do tactful anymore. I noticed. The blonde rolled her eyes. Anyway, yes, as our idiot so bluntly blurted out, Kinnear's the reason I arrived in this world after living in another one before. I'll spare the details, though, because they're no fun. I don't have any words or know how I should react. Neither if I should believe it or not. Eve had some rather conflicting feelings on the matter. I think I've heard stories of a similar topic before, but I never believed it. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. Theo, too, didn't just accept it like that. Do you want to see it? Sophia tilted her head. That world, I mean. I can't recommend it. Maya shook her head. There are some very interesting things there, but there are many cons to it, too. How? Eve looked confused. Well, thinking about it for a moment, Sophia then opened one of her sparkly portals next to them. If you step through this gate, it will bring you to a room from where we can visit my previous world. No way. We also live in there while we're traveling. Maya added some extra details. Not Sophia's old world, but the place inside the portal. There really is a different world other than this? There is. The blonde nodded. Probably many more, but I don't know them yet. What do you mean by yet? Maya didn't like the sound of that. Who knows what'll happen in the future? She just shrugged. That doesn't make it any better. So, do you want to see it? Ignoring her girlfriend, the tiger kept concentrating on her parents. And maybe another time, Eve was too overwhelmed to take the offer. Why yeah. Theo sided with his wife. Sure thing. Sophia wasn't going to push them. The whole reason I brought up this topic was another one, anyway. Other than shocking us to the very core? Eve tilted her head. Of course. She nodded a couple of times. My sister came with me, but my parents are still in that other world, and I really want them to come here, too. As I said before, this is, objectively speaking, the better world. They don't know anyone here, though. Because of that, I was hoping that I could introduce them to you when showing them this world. I think it would be a great help if they have someone to talk to. Oh. I'd love to meet the parents of our future daughter-in-law. Eve got very excited about that. Ahaha, Sophia and Maya only reacted with an awkward laugh. I'm ready whenever to meet them. Eve was really looking forward to it. Well, I still have some more explaining to do. Sophia tried to calm her down. There are some circumstances about them that complicate things a little. She had no idea how she should explain the bit where her parents were humans. I'll go and make some tea. Maya stood up from the sofa to leave for the kitchen. We'll need it, because this will take a while. The blonde liked that idea, and the group took a little break where she tried her best to lay out her story in the most logical way to explain it to Maya's parents in a way that made sense. Chapter 080, Breaking the Parents. Sophia and Maya met up with the catgirl's parents and had a long chat with them. During that conversation, the blonde told them that she came from another world and that her parents were still there. Naturally, Eve and Theo had trouble believing her, but once they saw her portals, they became a little more open about the idea. Sophia also told them that she wants her parents to also be in the new world and how she'd love their help with that. Okay, can I continue with the complicated part now? Putting away the cup of tea she was holding, Sophia then faced Maya's parents. The complicated part? You just told us you're from a different world, and that wasn't the difficult part. Unfortunately, the tea they just had didn't have much of a calming effect on Theo and Eve. Well, from a technical standpoint, the world thingy is more complicated. The blonde scratched her cheek. Something else has more of an impact, though. More of an impact? The two synced up. Fine, maybe that isn't it, either. She had trouble finding the right words. It's more of a problem that comes with the world I used to live in. A massive problem. Maya reacted with a big nod. Kinnear gave me a new life in this world, and I used the chance to turn myself into a member of the tiger beast folk without knowing their royalty. Steph did something similar. My parents are still humans, though. That's because there are only humans in the world where I came from before my life there literally ended, and I started a new one here. Their expression had turned amazingly complicated. They have nothing in common with the humans in this world, though. Yes, their looks are the same, mainly the lack of beast bits, but their character traits are completely different. As Sophia was specifically talking about her family, she technically was telling the truth. They had no idea what to say. The looks are still the issue. The tiger kept going. Even though they look like regular humans of this world, they are different. No one would care about that at first glance, though. They'll only see the human part and understandably want nothing to do with them. There are members of the beast folk that have no visible animal traits and are called hidden. Maya tilted her head. The beast side is either in parts of the body that aren't usually visible, inside, or they simply have a few character traits and nothing else. It's a bit of a stretch, but if they really don't act like our humans here and are friendly, people could believe it. Especially if you inject some magic into them. You finally started being actually helpful. Sophia was touched. Okay, I did that to myself. She had nothing to defend herself with. I still think that could work out, though. It's that, or you give them some very slight animal features that aren't really noticeable unless you're really looking at it if your parents don't want to change too much. Yeah, I have to talk about that with them, too. Sophia wasn't looking forward to that, either. What is going on? Eve had no nerve to deal with their conversation. Sorry about that. The blonde smiled at her. The beast folk doesn't exist in the world I came from. Neither do demons, elves, and all the other races. Just humans and completely regular animals. It's a sad world. Oh, only humans. Theo didn't like the sound of that. Yeah, it's a horrible place. Maya nodded a couple of times. It's the worst part of going there. Though, to be fair, most of the individuals I met so far were at least decent or something like that. That world might be doomed, but it does house some nice people. Sophia also came from there, after all. Trying to farm some points with me? She just stared at her. And it's working. The white-haired cat was quite proud of herself for that. Fair enough. It was indeed working on her. Have you been there? Theo faced his daughter. You made it sound like that. A couple of times. She nodded. The first time was by accident, but that place has some amazing places to go shopping, so we returned a couple of times to get all sorts of stuff. She decided against going into detail, though. For obvious reasons. My daughter went to another world. Other worlds are a thing. Her father was having a hard time. You forgot the part where I'm dating a girl from another world. Maya showed him a cheeky grin. Not helping. Sophia resorted to glaring again. Also, shall I remind you how you reacted back when I told you? The grin was immediately gone as she remembered how she had run away on the day she had learned about the blonde's past. Again, my parents are decent human beings. She tried to convince them some more. I mean, I get that that's unbelievable for someone from this world, but it's true. After all, they raised me. Okay, I have some flaws, but I think my behavior is pretty decent. Meh. Maya just shrugged. Please go through that portal and wait in the cottage until I'm done here. The blonde pointed at the portal she had created earlier while sounding rather angry. I'm sorry. She apologized. You make it sound so easy to lighten the mood by making stupid comments, but it's an art, huh? It's one of my few talents, so of course it is. Could we focus a little? You've tried to get them back on track. I'm already completely overwhelmed, so this isn't the slightest bit helpful. I agree. Theo just nodded. We're sorry. Have you really been a human in the past? Eve's expression turned complicated again. A long time ago. A year can arguably be a long time, so she was technically telling the truth. I've never identified with the humans of this world and almost went to war with them the moment I met a group of them. Then, I actually did go to war against them last year, so. Yeah, again, the only thing that's similar to this world's humans and my parents are their general looks. I don't even have that in common with them anymore, and I have no attachment to the human inhabitants of this world. My past plays absolutely no role here. I see. If you two agree to meet my parents, you'll immediately see that they have nothing in common with the humans of this world, as well. Sophia smiled at them. I might be biased because they're my parents, but I'm convinced they're nice people, and you'll immediately notice that they share nothing except the looks with the inhabitants of this world. Is that so? Eve looked at her daughter. What do you think? Well, I haven't met them yet, but they're the parents of Sophia and Steph, and they're, albeit quite hyperactive, lovely girls. It would be a big stretch to imagine them being bad people. Exactly. Sophia nodded. They're actually rather similar to you two, Theo and Eve. I don't know Maya's brother, but you also raised a mostly nice and occasionally bratty daughter, just like Steph. Just think of them as hidden ones instead of humans when you see them. Maya noticed how the two still didn't seem too convinced about the idea. It'll make things way easier. What she said. The blonde liked the plan. It will make me unbelievably happy if you agree to meet them. She then faced Theo and Eve with a pleading expression. Your puppy eyes aren't nearly as good as Steph's. That's because she's a dog. Sophia glared at Maya. I'm a mighty and proud tiger. I have other selling points. See? Maya smiled at her parents instead. Do you think such a dork could have been raised by bad people? That's a compelling argument. The two nodded. Why is that the thing that convinced you? The mighty tiger wasn't happy about the change of heart, at least not in this situation, and with that reasoning. Dot. All three of the cat family had to chuckle. Well, whatever. She decided to stop caring about semantics and was just happy about the result. After that chuckle, I won't accept a no for an answer any longer. I'm so happy you agreed to meet my parents. The two went silent. I'll meet with them soon and tell them about my plan and do some convincing to have them come to my place for a visit. Once I've managed to do that, I'll get the two of you, and we'll have a long chat about a lot of things. I'm still not entirely convinced about the circumstances, but I'm willing to give it a try. Theo scratched his cheek. I agree that Sophia's parents are impossible to be bad, but just hearing the word human fills me with nothing but hesitation. I agree. Eve nodded. Trust me, I understand that. Sophia also agreed with them. I didn't have any good experiences with humans in this world either, so I really get it, but I promise that my parents are different. Okay, we'll meet them. Theo finally caved in. I can't not meet the parents of my future daughter-in-law, so it's hard to be against it. Eve did so, too. There's lots of planning I have to do with Sophia's mother, after all. She was already 4 steps ahead. Can I take the day off when that happens? Maya had a bad feeling about the meeting. No, everyone shook their heads. It was worth a try. Afterward, the 4 put the topic aside and continued to leisurely chat about other things for a while. Sophia's tea party with Eve aside, they hadn't seen each other for a while, and they had a lot of stories to tell Theo and Eve about things that happened during their travels so far.